Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. We've got a call coming in from New Hampshire, but let me ask you guys, is there anything urgent that we want to get to? And I wouldn't normally ask that, except in the past month or two, we've had a few things that were kind of...
I have a story that I just got given to me before I came up here, and I haven't read it yet, and I'll get a look at it on the break. But I'm going to tease it because it is a big fine. We've had a lot of emissions fines by the EPA, and it's not typical.
I don't like that you haven't read it yet, and yet you're...
Oh, no, I know by the headline that it's not typical.
It's not another diesel shop.
It's not another diesel shop.
Because that's the one I saw was yet another diesel shop got nailed.
This is not a diesel shop, so I'll look into that, and we'll...
let me, real quick.
It's a gas motor shop.
Sorry, Dean, hold on a second. The diesel shops, when they're getting busted now, are they getting busted for things in the past still? I mean, they're not doing it now, are they? Because they're getting busted.
No, some of them are still doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it because they think they found a loophole or something?
No, they just think they're in a small enough area that they're not going to have a problem. You know, we have never done any of the diesel removals or conversions. I mean, first of all, you have to spend a little money to get into it, to do it.
Yeah.
So you'd have to take the equipment off, but you'd also have to do the programming, and I just never decided, hey, let's do this. And we didn't even look into it because it's a problem. And we're like, we've got so much to do already. I don't need that extra thing.
Right.
But we do know of a number of shops. I'm sure Shannon knows a number of them too that I don't know of, that they still do it. They're like, oh yeah, come on in, we'll do it. And I'm like, nah, you guys are crazy. And they're like, we're fine. We're small. Nobody will bother us until they do, you know, they're primarily, it seems like they like to go after the high profile targets that they know can afford a $2 million fine. And some of these YouTube channels that are doing it, and they're just right in the EPA's face. They're on YouTube saying, look at this truck we just deleted. Well, yeah, you're a target now and you're making several $1 million a year off this stuff. They're going to come after you. So those are the ones we're still seeing get pulled. They pulled one down like 2 weeks ago. Got another one.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here. Dean is in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Dean. What can we do for you?
Yeah, my name's we're riding up towards Mount Washington. I don't have my notes with me, but the fellas down in the prison down in Florida that I just left, they want to know if you can put in. I think that it was LS5 into a 1998 Cadillac. Will the transmission, the stock transmission, be able to hook up into it?
Okay.
LS3 into an 89 Deville?
Yeah.
Or 98.
89 Deville.
89 Deville.
Okay.
Hold on.
We got it.
Do we have it?
I got enough information to talk about it. His connection's really bad.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this subject a little bit, talk around it a little bit, and I think we can give him some information that'll be helpful.
Okay.
89 Deville.
My first thought is that do they have an 89 Deville front-wheel drive, or do they have an 89 Brome rear-wheel drive?
Dean, do you have any insight on that?
I haven't, no.
Because
I end up losing.
Oh, we can talk about both of them.
We'll talk about both of them, yeah, because the most likely suspect would be an 89 Brome rear-wheel drive, which he didn't say that, but let's talk about that a little bit, because that is a big body GM chassis that they use for the big Buicks and the big Cadillacs and all that stuff. I don't know what chassis code they called that, but that chassis definitely would be able to handle putting an LS3 motor in it, but it would not mate up to the transmission because the transmission in that car would have been mated to most likely a 307 Oldsmobile, and the Oldsmobile and Buick bolt pattern was different than the Chevy bolt pattern that would be on the LS3. The LS3 uses a typical Chevy bolt pattern that they've used on the small block since they came out with it in the 50s.
Super easy swap, though, because it's rear-wheel drive.
Yeah, so if you put in tranny and all, people can do that.
Bolt right in. To the mounts.
They can do that, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's a very doable
You got an overdrive rear-wheel drive tranny. You got a small block, bolts right into the mounts, and the transmission's going to be, should be the same length if they're both overdrives in those. Now.
And they make custom harnesses where you could get a custom harness to power the computer and do all that stuff that other car never had. And then you would have to have somebody do the interactions with the dash gauges. And that's where, like one of our friends here locally, Dakota Digital, they make a lot of converters. So you can convert signals to hopefully be able to make some of that other stuff inside work. But that's all that's the small work, the detail work that can make the difference between the experts and the kind of experts is how they figure that stuff out. To make it run in the car, that can be done.
But now, if it's a front-wheel drive Cadillac, there's a much larger problem.
Why did they? I'm looking at both of the cars. I'm looking at pictures on images.
It's the same way with Delta 88 and Olds 88.
They're different. And
they made them both.
Cool.
It was all about sales. You make a big rear-wheel drive Caddy, you make a front-wheel drive Caddy, equal amounts, whatever they made, and you want to see.
Don't you call it something different?
Well, you want to see people know the name. Chris, think about your father's. Oh, it's not your father's Oldsmobile. That was a slogan of Oldsmobile about that time. They wanted to know, do people want the big boat rear-wheel drives or do they want a front-wheel drive? So they named them very similar, two different cars. With the Olds 88 and the big 88, you had the rear-wheel drive or you had the front-wheel drive. They did the same thing, and it turned out it all went to front-wheel drive for whatever reason. We don't know, but that's the way it settled. If this is a front-wheel drive car, whether it's a Olds 88 or the Caddy, any of those front-wheel drives, they used a small bell housing on the transmission. It was the same bell housing that they used on like the S10 pickups with the 2.8, not the 4.3. The 4.3 was the same as a small block Chevy. The 2.8 was a whole different bell housing, so people would try to put the 4.3 in a 2.8, and they couldn't do it with that transmission. They did make some adapters out there to put a 4.3 in a 2.8. So if you find one of those adapters, you could put an LS engine on the transmission of the Cadillac. Finding one of those is going to be next to impossible because as time went by, they didn't need adapters because people just yanked the transmission out and they put the whole engine and trans in because it was a stronger trans.
I suppose you could adapt the front drivetrain out of a Impala SS or Grand Prix that had the V8s in them.
You could put a 4T65 transmission in this older Cadillac and then put the LS motor on it, or just find a wrecked or just an old worn out V8
Impala SS,
or the regular. I think the regular Impala had one too in some of them in later years. But yeah, it's going to take a transmission. We'll just say if it's a small Cadillac front wheel drive, you're going to have to change the transmission as well as the engine, but it can be done, not a problem. If it's a big rear wheel drive, you can swap the transmission and get it done. But just plan on an engine and transmission on either car to get it done.
And this isn't something that just everybody's going to do. You're going to have to do a little research. You're going to have to get online, look at what other people have done. Whoever did these things first are the ones that are pretty impressive. They look at it and they're like, bet you that'll fit in there. And they do it. Yeah. And then they figure out the wiring. But the wiring for running the engines is readily available. The integration with the car becomes the next trick.
Dean, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. I feel a little bit slighted. I feel a little bit unfortunate. And you guys are in our era of like high school. Okay, we're talking, this is right smack dab high school era for us.
For you.
You too. Same time.
In 89 Deville?
Yeah, I was in high school in 89. When'd you?
No, we were out by
87. I was just out of high school.
Yeah.
I'll play along.
85 to 90.
Yeah, I'll play along.
Not a cool era for cars. Do you think?
A lot of memorable stuff, though.
Oh, no. There was some cool stuff, and more of it a little older. Like 80, 81.
Yes, exactly.
But 85 to 90 brought out
You weren't walking past the showroom going, "Oh, I hope I can own a Chevy Celebrity when I get older."
The end of it for me was pretty much like the end of 87 because that's when the Camaros got weird looking. Or 89.
Yes.
91, they just started changing the bodies up.
I agree.
The Nissan 300, all of a sudden, whoa, what happened to the cool Nissan Z car?
That's my new thing, by the way. The Z's. That's where I'm
Let's
going.
get you an old one.
In my heart. Yeah.
Like a 79.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to Georgia now and talk to Bob. You're on the Under the Hood Show, Bob. What can we do for you?
Good morning. I have a 99 Olds 88 3.8. It's an LSS model, has the nice wheels and all that stuff. It's kind of a cream puff. I took a 100-mile trip up I-85 the other day, and about 50 miles up the road, it started stumbling, we'll call it. When I go uphill, if I didn't give it passing gear, it was in overdrive, and just a strange feeling. So I put my little Ansel AD310 on, had my wife do the live data thing. And after doing some research on it, the MAF sensor is acting funny. Should I replace that MAF sensor, or should I look elsewhere to analyze it?
Well, you got a couple things going on here. Your mass airflow, that MAF sensor, if that is bad, if it's failed, or if it's just dirty, it could be causing the issue you have. Or if this car has this issue for another reason, such as failing ignition coils or spark plug wires, or even some fouled plugs causing a misfire under that slight load before you kick it down, it would cause a false reading in that mass airflow sensor because of the way that the airflow is not smooth like it should be. So it could be either one. We would start by removing the mass airflow sensor and inspecting it. You shine a flashlight down into it where the little coil of wire is and see if it's furry. If it's got a collection of oil and dust on it, clean it off. That would be the first step we would do is clean it off. You don't want to blow it with compressed air, but you can use some electrical contact cleaner and clean it off of there. And then try it and see if it's fixed. If it's not, at that point, we go on to further diagnosis. But likely, on an LSS of that age, it's very likely you've got some bad plug wires. It's tune-up time. If you haven't done it in a number of years, we would start with that. Some spark plugs and plug wires, and then look at those ignition coils very closely. If you've got any chalky gray marks anywhere on the coils, it means that they have been arcing through the side to ground or to each other, which causes a miss. Those coils are pretty inexpensive. It's a coil that's used on thousands of different cars and dozens and dozens of models. So you could swap those coils out fairly affordably. And typically in a tune-up on one of those, it's plugs and wires, but plugs, wires, and coils will get you the whole setup done, and then that's taken care of. But it sounds like an ignition miss. If you're going up a hill under a load in that 40 to 48 miles an hour range without kicking it down a gear, so it's really lugging in the overdrive gear, and it's warmed up, and it just kind of it kicks back like it's like somebody's hitting the car with a hammer or something. It's just toot, 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 and chugging. That's usually ignition miss. That mass airflow tends to do it all the time. If you're at a steady cruise, it'll rock back and forth and give you a kind of a surging as well. Even if you kick it down a gear, it would give you a little surging. So those are the items we'd kind of look at on those.
What mileage you got on this cream puff of a Olds 88 LSS?
About 193,000.
All right.
We were just talking about eras of cars, and GM had a heck of a run with that body style with the LeSabres and the Olds 88s and the Bonnevilles and that whole line of cars. That LSS was a cool Oldsmobile for a big car in its day. They kind of made it look cool. And Chris is looking at me with funny eyes because he's got a picture of it on his screen, and he's just not agreeing with me. Probably.
I'm abstaining from any of this talk.
How much does it look like an Aztec? How about a spaceship? Very round.
No.
It was kind of the rounding of that.
Very round.
Then
The 93 was it in that year? 93 to 99?
They started that generation in 95.
Was it 5?
85 to 93.
What do you
somewhere
got,
in there
Chris?
is somewhere in
I'm
there
just
was
looking
when
at
they square.
pictures.
Oh,
But that was the next generation of that car, and that was started in somewhere in
95.
there. Yeah, it might have been 95, 96, 96 maybe. But that was they had quite a run. They sold a ton of those types of cars.
for sure, yeah.
3800s in them. They all had the same drivetrain.
and the ones that survived are the Caprice, the Roadmaster and the Caprice. Mostly Caprice, in that the police car style era of car with the LS motor. Those were the ones that were really popular. I think the rest of them are fading away.
Yeah. Well, hey, I don't think it's quite a Berkeley Classic, guys, is it?
No,
I would not.
Okay,
guess
we're not going to do it.
Although I think it's a gold.
I think it's a blue non-Berkeley Classic. What do you think it is, Russ?
I think it's green.
What color's your car?
White.
The
White.
white.
Okay.
All right, Bob.
Bob, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. It is Jim in Nebraska's turn. Jim, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, I got a 2014 Dodge Grand Caravan, and I'm having trouble with the heater and the air conditioner control. And one day I got in the car, and I'd had trouble getting the air conditioner to come on a couple times, and I noticed that the flashing, if you can picture the instrument panel on where the controls are, there's a rear window defogger or whatever. It would be flashing.
Alternating back
And then
and
I heard
forth.
this pop, 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 pop. Yeah, you can hear that kind of a clapping. Well, it's coming from the dashboard. It turns out it's one of those door actuators.
Yep.
So I took it to the mechanic, and he adjusted the AC control and the temperature because it's got dual controls, heat and air on one side and then on the driver's side. And he said, well, it's the bad one is the one on the far left, the air conditioner. So he replaced it. And I don't hear the clapping or the pop, pop, pop anymore. But when I get in the car, this rear, what are you going to call it, defogger or whatever, it flashes. And it'll flash for a while. And then like 30 seconds to a minute later, my air conditioner will come on. And so while I'm waiting for you guys, I was testing it out here sitting in the car.
Oh, live. We got a live one.
All right.
Yeah. I pushed the control where you direct the heat right on, or air right on you, or mix it or clear under your feet. Then I put it back on, and I hadn't noticed this before, but I'm only getting cold air coming out the passenger side. There's usually nobody over there. And then I got heat coming out my side. And I took it back to the mechanic before I discovered that part. But I asked him why does it take long for my air conditioner? And he said that something about this new actuator would take a while for the computer to adjust to it, which I thought was a little odd. And I can't figure it out. I suppose I can take it back, but I just thought I'd call you guys and see if you had any. I know there's 4 of those actuators up front under the dashboard. And, it's kind of annoying. I don't know if more of those are bad or just what.
That's what it sounds like. That flashing is normal for a system that's going through a self-test. It does a cool-down test where it kicks a compressor on and it looks for a change in the evaporator temperature sensor. It wants to see it go from whatever the outside temperature is to much lower. If it can't see a proper change, it knows that you have low refrigerant or a problem in the compressor, and it'll continue to flash and not operate. If you have a door that's not working because the door is broken, or more than likely a motor that's failed on one of the doors, when it tries to do that actuator test, it starts up, it kicks the compressor on, and it's moving the doors all the way to one side, all the way to the other side, and back where they go. And it's probably not able to do that, so it keeps flashing, and when it says, hey, we've done the test, we see a failure, we've set a code, now we're flashing the light, but we're going to turn the AC on. That's what's going on.
And will it learn itself afterwards, or is there a learned procedure with a new one?
No, if you put a brand new actuator in, whichever side has failed or whichever actuator, it'll start working again like it should. That's the test, the calibration it's doing when you start it.
There you go, Jim. I wish I have a regret. I wish I was going to make the joke. I was going to say, Jim has a Grand Caravan, and I bet he's calling about the dual zone air conditioning, because that seems
Were you really?
Yeah, I was thinking the rear air conditioning, and how it seems like a nightmare on those cars. Jim, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150.
Three friends talking cars. You decide if they know what they're talking about. This is Under the Hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us at the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget, you can watch the show on our YouTube channel. And if you subscribe to the show and the channel, I guess, and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Tom Burkell. Congratulations to all us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu, and Berkeley One Classic, celebrating 50 years of collector car insurance. Universal Technical Institute. I wish they'd send me a tech right now. I could use one.
Mm-hmm.
They could send me one, and I'd know that they were trained well.
That's right.
They went to Universal Technical Institute. I'm sure there's people here in this state that have gone there, and they're already employed.
You can go to, I think you as a shop can contact UTI and say, hey, we're looking for someone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I should, just came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should maybe do that.
Somebody I know.
Yeah, today is Jake at our shop that helps Russ, and those two have worked together for a long, long time. It's his last day today.
16 years only.
And so him and his son are starting their own shop up in Madison, South Dakota here for the local folks, and they've done a lot of good things for us, but today's the last day, and we gotta figure out how to move forward and get that all filled in.
I have an off-air question for you, Russ, about Jake. Did he bring in any venison?
He didn't bring anything in. No.
Yeah, I thought I said, hey, when's your last day? And is there any venison left? The summer sausage. All right. Well, best of luck.
He had his trailer. Maybe it was loaded with venison and just hasn't told anybody yet.
Yeah, that could be. 866-594-4150. And we should mention we're going to be at Barrett-Jackson in October.
Yes, we are going to be at Barrett-Jackson in October. We're going to be broadcasting on Friday, which is Friday the 11th. We'll be doing a live show. Plus, we'll also be doing interviews while we are there. We're going to be interviewing Craig Jackson. We're going to be interviewing other people that are in the collector car industry, in the protection of the collector car industry, such as Berkeley One Classics. And, of course, we'll be bringing you some great videos and pictures. We'll be posting pictures to Instagram, some videos and things to Facebook, YouTube. But you'll be able to call us, and we'll be able to call you live. So now when we take these calls, and either we call you if we miss the call or you call us, it's going to be on Friday. It'll be a similar time in the morning, and we're going to time shift it because they're a couple hours behind us.
Sure.
But it'll probably be a couple hours later than we normally do it. But we'll be doing it on Friday, so we'll be able to catch some people that normally we wouldn't be able to. But we're going to be doing this live from the floor at Barrett-Jackson. And I've had people already ask me that said, well, yeah, I've seen Barrett-Jackson on YouTube before, and I have no interest in, I think they're cool watching them, but I'm not going to buy $1 million car.
Right.
I said, well, they're not all $1 million. They said, well, I'm not buying a $90,000 car either. There are more cars.
Yeah.
There are more days than just the giant auction you see on that block on Saturday night. There are cars that can be anywhere from under $10,000 to less than $20,000 that are amazing. If you're looking for, let's say you want a daily driver, father-son project, father-daughter project, and you want like a 65, 66 Mustang or Camaro or something like that, you can go to the auction, check some stuff out. And the last time I've been there, there were many of those kind of cars for under 20,000. There was a few of them that were down right around 10, and they were the kind of cars that they might have had a little bit of rust here and there, but they were still really nice daily drivers. You could take out, cruise, work on them, have fun with them. They're just not the cars that are the ones you're going to hang on your wall or something because they're so nice type thing.
And that's the other thing we're doing, right? I mean, the Under the Hood show is going to buy a show car for me to drive so I can be part of the gang.
Chris, I thought we'd talked you out of your delusional state. I thought
we got past that. Get rid of yours.
I'm sorry, I'm ruining the surprise.
Yeah. But if you want to kind of see too, you can jump on Barrett Jackson's website, and if you log in and get a membership, you can see past sale results and browse through to see just this is not
how attainable
all $100,000 stuff. There's plenty of stuff there.
Yeah, you can see the previews and stuff going up there, but it'll be a fun show. It'll be a great.
Having said that, it's fun and it's cool to watch that. More expensive stuff sell.
We're gonna talk about it all the way up to the event. We've been talking about it for a few weeks now, but it's coming up. It's just a couple short weeks away now.
Yeah,
and it's actually 3 weeks from today, so it's coming up quick.
I don't like the feeling of that because I'm thinking of my schedule. What has to happen between now and then. I'm sure you guys are too. It's like
that's not true. It's in October. It's
not long enough.
It's
everything
after
just
summer.
happens and goes. It comes and goes, and it'll be Christmas before you know it. And
Christmas.
That's ridiculous.
Christmas.
Let's talk to Lee. You're on the Under the Hood show. Lee, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Go ahead. What can we help you with?
I've got a 1974 Ford Bronco. It's got big old tires on it, and the problem is the power steering on it. You can't move it. You touch the steering wheel, and it'll start turning by itself, either left or right. And it's all over the road.
Lee, I have a question.
A submarine?
What are you in a submarine? Are you checking the depth? What's going on in the background there?
Boop, boop.
There is nothing in the background. I'll take it off speaker.
Oh, we heard the old sonar sound.
Either that or he was being censored.
Beep.
He was being bleeped.
He was bleeping
because
himself.
He was swearing, or there was somebody honking an old horn at him.
I took it off speaker. Does that help any?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds fine now.
Yeah, it might be a little bit to do with the connection too. Yeah. So, 74 Bronco was all original otherwise, other than the big wheels and tires?
Well, it looks like it's been modified into a little pickup.
Okay, sure. I know what you're talking about.
If you know what I mean. It doesn't have it has like a cab, and it has like a box, but it has no topper. If you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They made a kit for that.
It's a nice little truck, but like I say, it's all over the road. You can't drive from one end of town to the other without fear you're going to smash into something.
So the steering, what does it do when you're stopped and you got it in gear and you're sitting at a stoplight? Can you turn it?
Well, you touch with one finger and it'll start turning all by itself.
When you're stopped?
Yeah, when you're stopped.
All right, the
same thing when you're driving too.
Sounds
I'm wondering, is it the gearbox?
Yeah, sounds like the gearbox is out, because if it was the pump, it wouldn't have enough pressure to move the wheel when you're parked, especially with big tires.
Is there an adjustment I can do on the gearbox?
The adjustment would be to adjust it into a recycling bin and replace it with another one. Yeah, there's no way to adjust it. If you said that it just wandered going down the road, it could be rebuilt, maybe a little bit of adjustment on the lash. But when you're stopped, if it's taken off by itself, the fluid moving through that gearbox is not going the directions it's supposed to. It's not being directed as supposed to. So when you
turn, it wore out?
Yeah, it's just worn out inside. The valves in it,
it's just worn out.
You move that input shaft just a little bit left or right, and as long as you are applying pressure on input, the fluid is supposed to push it that direction. But the microsecond you stop applying pressure that direction, it's supposed to stop and hold the steering in that position, and it'll allow it to track back as you drive to center, but it shouldn't keep going one direction or the other. If it moves when you touch it one way or the other and keeps taking off the other direction, something's wrong with that gear. It may be also too that you can look at it maybe and see what the fluid looks like. If it's not bright red like it was originally and clean, you'll want to put a pump on it too. The pumps aren't very expensive for those, but you'll have contamination in that pump and in the hoses, metal from that pump, that gear wearing out, which can ruin the new gear and also your old pump or the new pump. So the gearbox is going to be the expensive part. I would say if it was mine or a customer's, I would put on a new box, I would put on a new pump, and I would put on new hoses, and it would be fixed, and it wouldn't be that much more expensive than just putting the gear on itself.
When we go to Barrett-Jackson, we're going to see a lot of Broncos in this era. When the Rush came out with the new Bronco, the old Broncos just came out of the woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People restoring them, bringing them out, making them popular. These are definitely Berkeley classics.
Yeah,
for sure.
You know what surprised me the other day? When you see a Bronco Sport, guys, the new ones, the brand new ones, we've got Josh Hayes just bought that one from us.
Yeah, the smaller Bronco Sport, yep.
I had never been in one.
I would have called it the Bronco too if I were them.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
well, here's the thing. I hopped in that, and I was pulling it around, and immediately I was transported back to the 80s when I had a 67 Bronco. And I thought, wait a second. That little Bronco Sport, I think, is bigger than the original 66, 67. Is it? You're going to have to look that up, Chris.
Bet. I will.
I think the body of it, and I stood in the front then purposely and looked at it, and I went, yeah, I think this Bronco is wider and longer than the original one. Now, it had the short tires. If it had 35-inch tires on it, it would have brought it up.
Interesting. I never thought of that before.
I think that vehicle, there's a lot of vehicles now, like the Colorados, that are bigger than 80s models Chevy pickups.
By a lot. We've gone through that.
Yes, yes. So I think that model is actually bigger. But this 74 that you have, this is a collector's item now. This is something that people are really
Did
after.
that power steering on those, when you see people that had a power assist ram, was that something they added, or was there an age where they used the power assist ram versus the...
This has got a gearbox on it.
Yeah, you got a regular gearbox mounted to the frame, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you see a lot of them that people add on the power, well, they had the power assist, or they...
Yeah, that ram was a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I mean, they were great for tractors, but not so good for trucks and cars and
Well,
things.
hey, this is a Berkeley classic. Berkeley one is just, we're proud to be part of their family. I think that this Bronco
blue. I got blue.
I'm going with black.
It's white.
What color's the Bronco, Lee?
It's a satin black now, but it was green.
Oh. That's
My last guess was green.
I'm going to say it's a win.
There we go. For him, right? Didn't he say black?
Stay on the line, and producer Doug Mashik there in the booth is going to get your size and your address so we can send you out a hoodie courtesy of Berkeley One Classics.
Thanks for the call, Lee. I'm looking at pictures of 74 Broncos online.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give him whoever's selling their Bronco, I'm gonna give you a tip, I think. I see some beautiful big tired 1974 Broncos. They look great. They look immaculate. I think if you took those big tires off and put the stock tires on with the hubcaps,
Too small.
it looks like a collector's item, and it looks like it's going to be $10,000 more. They look amazing when they look original. They just look like a different vehicle, like a whole different class.
They made the Heritage Edition in both the Bronco Sport now and the full-size Bronco, and they only made a few colors. They put the white stripe down the side, and that was a treatment they have. They have a cast aluminum wheel that looks like the old steel wheel with the cap.
With the Bronco.
Yep.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. I do have some specs on, this is on the, let me see which one this is. 1966 Ford Bronco.
Yep.
We got a width of 79.3 inches. The 2024 width is 82.2. So it's a little wider.
What year did you look up for the old one?
1966.
Okay.
So it is bigger.
Wheelbase was 92 inches on the 1966.
Mm-hmm.
On the new one, it's 105.1 on the Bronco Sport.
Do they have bumper to bumper?
They do on this one, but not on the 1966. But the The length of the new one is 172.7 inches.
That's bigger because the original one, the bumper was like this far in front of the tire, so it had better approach angles.
However, the 1966 is 6 inches higher, taller.
It was a big box.
So there you go. 866-594-4150. Let's go to West Virginia and talk to Evan. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Evan, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, I talked to you last week about the 2011 Subaru. This week, I got a 99 Cherokee with a couple issues.
Okay.
First issue, ever since I got the Jeep, I've had it for a couple months now. When it's cold out, say 65 degrees or colder outside, you start it and it has a fast idle and will continue to have a fast idle till the temperature warms up outside and gets above 65 or so. You can rev it up and it'll idle back down. It's not throwing any codes, no sensors, no nothing like that. And I would assume it's had this issue for a while because whoever had it before me has replaced every single sensor on the engine. And I mean, every sensor on the engine's new. It runs like a top. It runs great. You can set the cruise control down the interstate 70 miles an hour and it runs perfect once it's warm. But it has that kind of sputter, hesitation, miss when it's cold. And I found some play in the throttle body, thinking that it was sucking air around the throttle body, the shaft of the throttle body. And I had seen a repair online where a guy had taken it apart and put some O-rings around the shaft to seal it up to fix that. It helped with the sputter and hesitation. It got rid of that completely. It doesn't have that anymore. But it still has the extremely fast idle. And it idles like 1,500 RPM or higher until you rev it up. And it'll you rev it up, it'll kind of hang about 2,000 to 2,200, and then it'll fall back down, and it'll stay about 600. And then when you go, it'll do it again. And for some reason on the interstate, or about 65 mile an hour or faster, 65 to 70-ish, it has a vibration from somewhere in the rear. I thought it was the rear tires. It's got 4 new tires on it, mounted and balanced. I thought it was the rear tires, so I rotated the tires, took both of them off the front and put them on the back, and vice versa, and it still has that same vibration. And I've tried everything I can to help with the fast idle and the vibration and can't figure out what's going on with it.
Well, that vibration might be in the drive shaft. If you get it up off the ground and allow those rear tires to turn and you get all 4 wheels off the ground like on a hoist or something and just put it in gear and let it idle and watch the drive shaft and see if get yourself a piece of chalk or something and mark it. See if it's out of round, like it's moving up and down. Because if it's moving up and down, that's going to really shake and throw it around. And it may be as simple as just unbolting the U-joint, flipping it over 180 degrees and bolting it back, and then see if it smooths it out any. Other than that, you might have to take the pinion off, the flange off the pinion in the rear and move it a little bit at a time, like maybe a 1/4 inch at a time until you can get it straightened out where it doesn't wobble, because it'll have a high spot and a low spot. We see that a lot on those. They can run over things.
It had bad U-joints in it when I got it, and I replaced the U-joints in it. I didn't notice it before, but I'd never really driven it on interstate before I replaced the U-joints. But driving around here, speed limit's 55, it's fine up till you get about 65 or 70 on highway speeds, then you notice it.
See, and that could be that pinion flange back there. So what happens if you have a bad U-joint, when it turns, it goes clunk, 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 and moves. It's just like a hammer, like an impact air hammer. Every time it moves, it hammers on that pinion, and it can bend it. A bad U-joint can bend the drive shaft or bend that pinion, so you're going to have to look at that with it up in the air and just let it roll and watch it at very slow speed and see if it moves up and down, and then you'll have to move it around and straighten it out. Hopefully that'll take care of that.
There's a very specific torque spec on that flange, too.
Yeah, it's very specific.
If you don't be hammering that on there with an air tool or anything. Make sure if you do get into that, changing, looking at that, you understand that.
I had a older 80s truck that I drove, and I got really tired of the vibration, so I finally narrowed it down to that. It would only vibrate about 68 and over, and our speed limits are 80, so I just took that off, and I moved that thing at the end 1 tooth at a time until I got it to where it had no up and down movement, and it just was smooth as glass after that. I could drive at any speed I wanted to, from 20 to 90, and it was just like glass, and it was all in that drive shaft the way it moved up and down.
The front drive shafts come apart on those like crazy too. So.
Yeah, that's true. As for this engine thing, you got a 4-liter in this?
Yeah, 4.
4 with a distributor?
Yeah.
Where's the anybody check the timing on this thing? Because if the timing is
no,
up,
I haven't.
Yeah, so I've seen people replace every sensor on an engine, throttle body, everything, trying to get rid of a fast idle. And what happens is when it's colder, the timing's at a different position than it is when it's warmed up. That's why you always check it with it warm. It may be that timing on this is advanced a little too much, and it may be advanced. You may have some timing chain issues or cam wear gear issues as well, but it could be affecting the base timing, and it may just be up too high, and you may have to back it off a little bit. The computer will adjust a lot of it, but if the base timing is up too high and it's trying to adjust, it says, well, this is where we should be at. Let's give it this much timing, but it doesn't know where the base is at. So you got to put the base where it belongs, and that could likely be why it's too fast.
Evan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck.
At the beginning of the show, we were talking about a EPA enforcement fine settlement that was different than others. And show contributor Rodney had passed this along to me, and a lot of people you've seen running around with Subarus over the years is where I see it, but they've used some products from Cobb Tuning.
The loud cars usually.
And Cobb Tuning has reached a settlement with the EPA on a $2.9 million agreement, money going out of their pocket to the EPA. And also they have to buy back devices that were sold. It says over 81,000 devices that were sold.
That's pretty many devices.
That defeated emissions. Also over 8,700 exhaust systems that compromised the factory 3-way catalyst with either a inferior or not positioned, or at the end of the day, not proper for what the car was designed with system. And this is the first we've seen a gas motor tuner that I've paid attention to. I'm sure there's other stuff out there. You don't have to call us, tell us, well, what about this one? We're telling you about this one because we heard about it. But this is, they also did work on other cars with that group, but big brand. A lot of people use their stuff. It's just something that, here we are. The EPA had come out with guidance earlier this year that said they were going to be doing, everybody assumed they were going to be doing less of this stuff.
Right.
But this was sounds like in 2022 is when they first started, must have notified Cobb that, hey, we might have an issue here. So, wow.
866-594-4150. We're going to talk to Joe after we jump over the top of the hour here.
Sounds good.
We got just about a minute left. What else has caught your attention that is going on?
Well, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it is a big deal because in our part of where our show is at live, we've got a huge truculation. Population of trucks would be a truculation.
A truculation.
Like
Yeah, we have a truculation around here. And there has been a cultural love by some to modify those trucks and make them not legal for emissions, but make them perform amazingly well. And so there's been a few local shops recently in our area that have had local fines we've heard about.
Yep.
So I would just tell everybody, if you're doing this kind of stuff, you need to be paying attention because it doesn't seem like the EPA is letting up.
Right.
Even though it sounded like they might.
And they're active, And even the small, like we talked about a couple small shops that have gotten dinged. So
and those,
there you go.
Yeah, you got to be paying attention.
The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. Hour 2 is coming up.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. Steve's been waiting for a little bit here while the music played, so let's go right to New York and talk to Steve. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hi, guys. I got a 2016 GMC Sierra. It's got the LML Duramax engine in it, and I'm interested to know what would a person need to do to keep their intake valves clean from the soot that's generated from the EGR and the PCV, stuff that kind of likes to cake up intake valves. Is it safe to spray any kind of a intake cleaner like into the turbo and to get that into the engine, or how do you go about introducing cleaner into the intake manifold if it's got a turbo and it's pressurized? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, we don't run them through that way. The only thing we use to keep those clean, we don't have a real big problem with the back of the valves and that. The problem we have is going to be with pistons and the oil system and things like that. So we use a Justice Brothers emission system cleaning kit, which has got a can that pours in the fuel tank, and that'll clean through the injectors and such, and that some of that vapor will get in there to the back of those valves, but it's going to clean up the pistons and things like that. And then also a can that goes into the oil system in the vehicle to run through that as well, and it just kind of works its way through the emission system. But other than that, there's really nothing you need to do in that system other than keeping an additive in every single tank of fuel you burn in that. Every drop needs to have additive in it in order to protect the injectors and protect that pump on there. They have so many problems with those from lubrication. It's strictly lubrication that's the issue. But we have never had a truck come in that had a running issue because we had a carbon buildup on the back of the valve. So that's a good thing. They will run better, and the mileage and the efficiency will be better if you keep them clean. So we use the emission system cleaning kit from Justice Brothers on them. Usually it's every couple year thing on those to keep them where they need to be and most efficient. I have seen people that say that they've noticed a noticeable difference in their fuel economy, whatever that is, fuel economy and power, when they keep them clean like that.
How do you use the truck, Steve? How's this truck get used?
Well, it doesn't have a whole lot of miles on it. It's only got about 30,000 on it. It's primarily used to pull a fifth wheel camper and occasionally a dump trailer, stuff like that. But I do have a work van that I use for my job, so that saves the miles on my truck.
So when the truck does get used, it gets out for a good heat cycle and it's getting worked, and you're going out 50, 100 miles, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that's the best thing for that truck is, Russ is telling you some great tips there, but, we tell people often on those diesel trucks, if you were in the city and just running this thing around and shutting it off, turning it on, never getting it really warmed up, that is the hardest thing on those trucks. But if they can get out and leg out and get warmed up and breathe every once in a while like you're doing, that really lets the systems they engineered to clean everything go to work. And the heat is needed in the engine to do that. And so that's a big deal. Russ, do they still have like fuel injection cleaners or fuel like you do for a car with those diesels?
That diesel emissions kit from Justice Brothers is a fuel injector cleaner. That one of them goes in the tank, one of them goes in the oil.
So it's a heavier product that you don't use all the time.
No, it's not meant to be used every tank.
Sure.
Steve, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Michigan and talk to Jim. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Jim, what can we do for you?
Gentlemen, thank you. What an honor. You are my all-time favorite AM radio show. In fact, I was recently surveyed by Nielsen Ratings organization, and they asked to name your favorite radio show, and you were right at the top of the list.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where do you listen at?
I think we have two local stations here. One is WKZO. I'm thinking it's them, or it's WKMI, one of the two.
KZO, Kalamazoo, Michigan, 590 AM.
Yep.
Is that right?
You, yeah.
Did I get that?
I don't know. But
I visited their studio when I was in town with my sister and I were both in Kalamazoo at the same time, and I went and visited their studio.
Cool.
Oh, really?
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
Yeah, that station was started by a guy named John Fetzer, who eventually owned the Detroit Tigers baseball team. So it has quite a history to it. But they've got some good shows on there, and I just appreciate the information that you provide on this. Like I say, I call you the three wise men of AM radio.
Two.
Yeah. I bring the frankincense and myrrh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get after this question on your 23 Subaru Forester.
Yeah, and I've called 2-3 times before with different questions, but this is a fairly new car. From my old one was sadly broadsided by an F150 pickup truck, and I ended up on my side, no injuries, but to either driver, but they had to kind of cut me out of there.
I'm glad you are with us to talk about this. My goodness.
Well, they didn't have to use the jaws of life. They just had to break a window to get me out of there. But I was hanging on my seatbelt. I didn't know if he locked up like that, so I could not free myself, and they had to do it. But everything turned out okay. So I decided maybe since I got through that misadventure, maybe I should just get another one because it kept me safe.
Well, the Subaru did great with that commercial, where they had all these cars that were horribly totaled out, and they said, they lived.
Yeah.
They had the families.
Subaru has put quite a campaign together about what they show their vehicle safety ratings and real life things. Our local dealer has done that too, I know. So
there's a lot of safe cars out there, but that was a great campaign they did.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, here's my question, gentlemen. In my cars prior to the Subaru, and even on my last Subaru, they say you should use pure synthetic oil.
Right.
No mixers, pure synthetic, which is a little more expensive, but you supposedly get better, longer mileage between oil changes.
Engine life.
But I used to use sometimes in my older cars either something called Marvel Mystery Oil or another one which was made in Wisconsin called Rizalone. And both of those products are still around. I use primarily Marvel. I would sometimes replace a quart of oil with that because it seemed to get my car better mileage. But the Rizalone was purely, it's kind of a cleaner and supposed to keep things from gumming up. And so I still have that habit in my mind, but I don't know if they're compatible with the new pure synthetic.
Break that habit.
Don't do that.
Break that habit.
Yeah, that's something you don't want to put in there. The full synthetic oil is what you want to put in that engine. Anything else, you're getting it by the rings and into the catalytic converter, and it's not designed for that. That engine was very specifically designed for the full synthetic. It had some problems with some oil burning on a few of those, and a lot of it was attributed to the wrong type of oil, whether it's the wrong weight or the wrong blend. But with this car, you should be very happy running synthetic oil, whatever they recommend right from the factory. Now, fuel injection system cleanings are a different thing. You could clean the fuel injection on this and keep that engine clean on the top end. That's the end we're going to be really worried about. That bottom end on there with the oil, you're perfectly fine with that full synthetic oil, but that top end is something that needs to be kept clean.
Okay. Do you recommend any additives in particular, either one of your sponsors or just in general?
Yeah, on the top end, we use the Justice Brothers fuel system cleaner to clean that out, and that's available at it's going to be more, instead of retail, you're going to find it at professional service centers. Like if you have a regular mechanic you go to, ask them, because that's where they're going to carry it.
They do have some at shops, but or at
there's
stores,
some,
but not a lot. Yeah,
some box stores will carry it. You'll find it at different like Runnings around here and things like that, which is a large chain.
Well, Sturdivant's and Auto Value, I think they go up into that area with their Auto Value chain. They probably have it.
Yep, Sturdivant's carries it.
Yeah,
but you won't find it everywhere. So depending on where you're at, like in Michigan, if you don't see it in those parts stores, you can ask for it by name and check with your mechanic.
Jim, thanks very much for the call and good luck. I want to, if we can remember, to come back to that Marvel Mystery Oil question.
That's a mystery, isn't it?
It's a mystery. I have a question about that.
Could be anything in there.
But we have to take a break right now, so we're going to do that first. And we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Mark. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Mark, what can we do for you?
Yeah, good morning. Hey, I've got a 2014 Ford F150 and got a question about brakes. The second set of brakes to 127,000 miles. And my rear brake pads are at 1 millimeter. My fronts are at 5. One question, I would need to replace the fronts right away when I replace the back. And then the second thing is, it seems like the old days you used to turn rotors, but now you don't seem to even do that anymore. You just get new ones. Is that what you would think?
That is correct. The rotor material is not quite what it used to be, not even close. And they're pretty much designed to be discarded. You take the rotors off, you put new ones on. The environmental impact of cutting rotors and having that metal and the dust in the air at a shop versus, and the time it takes versus just buying a brand new set of rotors and putting them on where you have a brand new, true, 100% perfect surface that's the right dimension, and both left and the right are the same width. Sometimes when they turn them, we would see somebody would have a little more grooves. Let's say you had brakes wear out and one side's grooved and the other side's not. People would turn the grooves out on one side and the other side they'd just clean up and make it shiny. Well, maybe one side is a millimeter thicker than the other side, and now the car can pull to one side or the other because the braking pressure is uneven. So that's why they replace them. You get pads and rotors. They're not super expensive.
You get back to the factory thickness so you can dissipate the heat.
Yeah, exactly.
So they don't warp right away.
And the back at 1 millimeter is definitely right down there, close to its discard time. Even if they grind a little bit, you're fine. Just replace them at that point.
Last time they did brakes, did they do front and rear? Because that just isn't that unusual, Russ, for the rear to be worn out before the front?
It sounds like they've done the front probably twice, and now they're on the first time for the rear.
No, they're both front and back from the dealer, and now that's been probably 60,000 miles ago. I got 127 on the pickup, but they did both front and back.
Okay, it's kind of odd for us to see the rear. It's usually the front that wears out twice as fast as the rear because that's where you do all your stopping.
The brake bias and the weight transfers typically fronts first, and then
unless you pull a trailer with it all the time and you've got a lot load on the rear, but normally it's the front that wears out.
Right. Yeah. I guess I could check my records and see if it was only the front, but I think it was both front and back. But
double check it.
Yeah. Our hunch would be is that they probably did the fronts last time and didn't do the rears based on the wear patterns we usually see between front and rear.
Our shop usually puts 2 sets of fronts on for 1 set of rear, or sometimes 2 sets of fronts and the rear is still good. Rear still got 5 or 6 millimeters left on it. So
if it is wearing out rears ahead of time, they might want to check.
Yeah,
what's going on there?
See what's going on.
Mark, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Arizona and talk to Dave. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Dave, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, I got a 70 F100 360 motor. Had it for 25 years. It's been in the family its entire life, but the power steering just has no power steering at idle. You have to bring the RPMs up. That's the only time you'll have power steering.
That's funny.
So if I go up to like 800 RPM, 850, power steering kicks right on, no problem. Go down to idle, nothing.
Guys,
I don't know if it's a pump or a gear or what's going on. I've never seen it. I've worked on vehicles my whole life, but never had this problem.
What do you think, guys? One show, 2 calls about the same classic Ford power steering system.
That doesn't happen very often. Yeah, we had an old Bronco call earlier, and they use a very similar system.
Early 70s Bronco with the same gear, with the gearbox and the pump, but they had a different problem with theirs. Theirs would just steer when it wanted to. You can turn the wheel and it'd take off.
This sounds like this sounds like a typical hydraulic pump to me. Like we have the same thing like in our forklifts sometimes where you have to raise the RPMs because it's bypassing fluid internally, and then there's enough pressure you can generate at speed to get it to assist again.
So there's only one way to know for 100% surality to find out for sure what's going on with this thing would be to remove the pressure side hose, put in a manual gauge, which will screw into the pump and onto your hose, and see what the pressure is and compare it to the factory specs. And you'll be able to watch if you just touch that throttle a tiny little bit and you see it go down from maybe 80 pounds to all the way up to, I think it's like 1,500 or so on that one, but it'll go up pretty high. And if it's got that much of a jump, then you've got a problem with the pump. But if it just doesn't change much more, it's just a little extra flow. So you could have a gearbox that the valves are stuck open and it's just kind of bypassing through the gearbox, or the pump could be worn out. It could be that the pump is just worn, and typically it is the pump on those. We would see, I remember like old Mustangs, we worked on a lot of those even back in the early 80s, and the pumps were they just couldn't generate a lot. And I had friends that had cars. I'm like, why are you cranking the steering wheel so hard to try? Well, it won't work unless I give it some gas. Like, let's just put a pump on there. And we go grab a pump off another car and they'd be just fine. So most commonly it's that's what's going on.
Sounded super shady. Like they're in the parking lot and he's just going over and grabbing a
whatever's available.
Okay.
So the 70 Ford F100 has been in the family for a long, long time, you said.
Since the day it was bought, but Grandpa died, and it sat in the desert literally for 25 years. And Grandma finally gave it to my wife, and we brought it back to life. Haven't had any problems until just now.
Is this truck all original as far as not rusty then because of the climate that it got kept in?
It's just patina. There's no rust on it at all.
Oh, that's awesome. And how often do you drive this truck?
Not often enough, but my wife, she's real picky about anybody driving it, even me. That's her baby. She used to ride around in it when she was a little kid with Grandpa. So
sure.
Oh, that is so awesome. This is definitely a Berkeley classic. Our partners at Berkeley ensure stuff like this, that this is right up that alley. And those F-Series trucks are starting to climb in value like crazy.
Yeah.
And so you want to be paying attention every year with adjusted values like you would with Berkeley to keep that insured. So if, gosh forbid, something happened to it, you can get the value out of it you deserve.
And it's more affordable than you think for the type of driving you're doing with it. You'd be surprised.
And you can keep the coverage on it year-round so that you can take it out when the weather's nice and not worry about it.
All this you bring up for one question.
You know what I'm sneaking up on here, Chris. Pull the trigger, Chris.
All right, we're going to guess the color of this truck. I'm going to guess that it is a one color, not two-tone. I'm going to go green. I'm going to say it's that light green.
I'm going to guess this is also a F100, probably not a fancy truck. No, it does have a 360 in it, though, so it could be a fancier version.
It's probably got the chrome down the trim on the
Yeah, because it's got with a V8 in it like that. But most of them had V8s. I'm going to go with a yellowish white.
Okay.
One color.
It's brown.
Brown.
Like not. I don't mean yellowish white.
Sure, sure.
It's either.
No,
I'm leaning towards whitish yellow.
Yeah, and I'm thinking very dark tan, or we call it bronze.
And we know it's got a patina to it. So,
Dave, what color is the truck?
It is a blue with a white two-tone.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so
I got it.
Navajo white, and I'm trying to think what the blue is.
That truck restored, you probably won't restore it, but that's a great color combination.
Does it have that big chrome trim all the way around the side where separates the two tones?
Yeah, it's a Sport Custom, I think is what it is.
It's a little higher in the back than the front.
Yep, but it's two-wheel drive. Unfortunately,
I can picture those things.
I got it doubly wrong.
You know, we cut our teeth on Ford F-Series trucks building the business around here, so a lot of fond memories. The first truck my dad officially fixed was a truck of that era.
Dave, thanks very much for the call. Good luck, and yeah, that's awesome. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget you can watch the show on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Juan Torres from Santa Cruz. Congratulations, everybody here under the hood. And our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu, and Berkeley One Classic, celebrating 50 years of collector car coverage.
We should get one for Arizona, too, for that pickup. That should be our Berkeley One Classics for this hour.
Yeah, we could do that. Doug, did you call the guy?
Call him back again.
Arizona, tell him we're going to be at Barry Jackson. Yeah, you want to tell him he's won a hoodie? We'll need his. That's worth calling.
No, tell him he's got to come to the auction to get it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you try that first and see. He might say, "Well, I'm 4 hours away. I'm all the way at the bottom." I don't know. That was either way. I'll bring it with me if he wants me to bring it, but otherwise we'll ship it to him.
There we go. See, it all works out.
My suitcase is getting quite full.
Kidding.
Was he from Arizona, or did the truck come from Arizona?
No, he's from Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't catch that. I just heard him say it had been I just heard him say it had been in the desert.
We're gonna have to ship a container to Arizona for the show.
I'm taking it on the plane.
Yeah.
I saw that I could carry media gear.
Okay.
And way cheaper than it was like $60 to carry your media gear and it like big box. So I've got this like job box I got from Menards.
Right on.
It's like 4 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet and it's wheeled. You're gonna have to pull it because you're stronger than me.
We're gonna stencil it like we're on tour? Like a rock show?
You put stickers all over it. London.
Bring your drums.
Kiss. Yeah. On tour. I like this idea. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Alan. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Alan, what can we do for you?
Morning, guys. I got my cruise control to work.
Oh, you were fighting that. You'd gotten some pieces that you pull it. You had tried some things. We gave you some ideas. So what was it?
Well, it was the module under the battery.
All right.
Plus, so you said to look at the little vacuum.
Yes.
Controls.
Canister. Right.
One of those you could see light through.
Oh, that would do it.
And that was the one right up by the intake manifold. So came out, visited again, picked up a couple of those, a little length of hard line because I found another cracked plastic line, the one that goes, I think, into the heater control area. Figured out where that vacuum box, storage box was, the little canister.
The vacuum reservoir?
Up under the, yeah, that thing. Up under the cowling, found that. On the truck I took all the parts off of. So, went back, having a little vacuum tester, checked to see if there was vacuum out there. Once I got all the little modules, you do that when the engine's running. It makes it a lot easier with the controls. Then you aren't running back and forth starting the truck. So I had it running, hooked up my vacuum pump, and that worked like a vacuum gauge. Had nice vacuum out there at the where it plugged into the cruise control module, like 23, 24 inches, so good vacuum. Hooked it all up. This is to the old one yet. Took it out on the highway. Had a green light. Push set. Pushed it again. Nothing. Came back. Grabbed the module. Took that apart. Had to unhook. I did not lose the little E-clip. Took that off, unhooked it. And putting that back together, discovered you had to unhook it from the throttle body. And I thought, well, okay, got it unhooked, didn't break it. Got all wired back up, hooked back up. Actually got that little C-clip up there at the throttle body put back on without breaking it. That's a bit of a trick because you can't see it. It's all by feel. If you got old rusty fingers, it ain't easy.
So then Alan got out on the road after doing all that, and you pushed
yeah.
you pushed the button, you saw the green light, and you were happy.
Cruising.
There you go.
All right.
Thanks for the update, Alan.
Yeah, that was a blow by blow. I think other people can know how to do it just by listening to this again.
It's like an audio YouTube video.
Yeah.
There you go. Alan, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the End of the Hood Show. Let's talk to Ken. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Ken, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning. I have a 2016 F150, and I'll make a comment before I have my question. My comment is a couple callers ago, the guy with the brakes and the rear versus front. So I've had this since new, and I get it serviced for oil at the dealer, and they told me the last time, hey, your rear brakes are really close, your front ones are good for a while yet. So whether they changed something.
Yeah, interesting.
Not, I don't
Probably.
Huh.
Two weird ones, I don't know.
All right. Thanks for the info on that.
Yeah, but did you have something else?
Yeah, my question is on the steering wheel controls for the radio and also the dash display. So a couple years ago, the radio one started acting up. Just you hit the volume up and the channel changes. You do that a few times and it'd get better. And it's always right when you first start up. It's the worst. And I kind of lived with it, looked into how much those buttons were. But I don't know if I'm going to do that just yet. I want to make sure that's what it is. And now the other side, the left side, the display button started doing the same thing, probably worse. So I looked online again, and now I'm getting different answers than people replacing the buttons. They're saying it's the clock spring, and they sound more definite about it. Like the path the message has to go through the wiring and the clock spring, and that's getting confused somehow. So I just kind of want to know if that is or isn't.
Can be. Yeah, that can definitely be an issue. It was one of the two. You could take the buttons, you take the steering apart, take the airbag out and unplug that and test the buttons and see if you're getting a signal through there, if there's continuity. If you're not, your switches are bad. If you are, then you could have a clock spring issue in that.
Did you say it's kind of going on its own when you push the one button?
No, so if you, I'll start it up in the morning, and I'll hit, it's too loud, I'm going to hit the volume. I hit the volume, it'll change either what media I'm on or it'll change the radio station.
Are those choices in the same button?
They're not in the same button. So you've got a center button that changes the media. The top button does the volume control. They're right next to each other, but they're not the same button.
Because the thought I'm thinking here, and correct me if I'm wrong here in this, Russ, but if the clock spring was bad, you would have no communication.
Correct.
Typically. The
Right.
clock spring's not going to scramble the communication.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
The switch itself, if it had multiple functions within it, could scramble the functions if the circuit board was bad or something was messed up in the switch. The fact that on the other switch now, is that just a no-go? I'm trying to remember what you said. Was that also doing weird things?
doing the same kind of stuff on the left side of the wheel. You can control your display on your dash, what you're viewing.
And so your dash display is doing weird stuff, but you seem like you can still control it.
That one's a little more difficult, but you can get there. You're kind of like, all right, now what did I have to do to get it to do, switch from tire pressure to whatever.
I have my suspicion that you might just have two bad switches, but that goes through. It doesn't go direct to those components, does it, Russ?
No. It
goes through the body control module.
Right.
And there could be something awry there also.
There could be.
Because my hunch is that it's not the clock spring.
Yeah, I would lean more towards switch problems with those. From ones we've seen, we've had to put a few switches in. Never a clock spring. Not so far.
I've had a clock spring issue where it would maybe work, maybe not, and it was the clock spring. But yeah, not where it scrambles.
Because clock springs typically an yes or no,
right?
And they can, have a conductor inside that clock spring that can crack, and it works sometimes, doesn't work other times. But you're no go for launch when it's not making continuity,
right?
But the fact that you can send a scrambled signal or something tells me it's either it's getting through the clock spring. So your most affordable guess would be the switches. Because after that you got to get into some communication stuff that could either be part of the radio or the BCM gem module, whatever Ford calls it, or cluster. But switches would be where I'd start.
Ken, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Going back to the question earlier where the caller mentioned Marvel Mystery Oil and that. And
it's a mystery.
I'm just thinking in generalist of terms, if I'm a person who has had cars since 1980, let's just say, okay, what era of vehicle does that stuff, like the Marvel Mystery Oil or the Slick 50, I don't know what else.
Don't compare those two, I don't think.
Okay. Where does that phase out? Like, if I'm a car guy who's done his own stuff for years, at what era of vehicle do I start to not think about traditional oils? I start to not think about old additives that we had.
The old additives, because right now there's still a lot of cars, most cars, that you can benefit from additives, like the Justice Brothers products for cleaning the fuel injection system.
And that stuff, Marvel Mystery Oil, is still on the shelf.
Yeah.
I saw it the other day.
They still have that out there, but for those type of things and those type of problems that those were aimed at, it's cars primarily like the flat tappet cam type cars before rollers and things, going back to up into the late 90s, even early 2000s on some of them. But yeah, it's changed so much.
I think of industrial engines, tractors.
Yeah, that still has a place for it there.
I know my brother-in-law used Marvel all the time when he would restore a tractor to let it soak in the cylinders to break them free if he'd bought an old tractor out of a shelter belt.
And like now, I haven't used. I don't know if I've ever used that stuff. I use barium and B12 chem tool, and I put that in cylinders. If I've got something that's rusted, I can spray it in there. I mean, there's so many different ways I can deliver that product in there compared to that old can.
Yeah, we may not know enough, but I'm assuming that formula is the same one in that can. Maybe they make other products, but I think from what I've seen, they've stuck with their tried and true for what they do with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough to be super sure, but I don't think I would put it in the fuel tank of a late model vehicle with the high pressure injection systems that we have.
20 years. The last 20 years.
I just don't think I would do it unless I could have somebody really teach me a lot more. And the same thing with these cars that are now running 0-20 oil, full synthetic. They were engineered, and we say this all the time, but it's the truth. These engines were engineered with highly engineered fluids that are made to be a certain viscosity at startup and have a certain molecular structure with the seals that they have and the components that they use inside the engine. It's all kind of married together. I do not feel real confident putting that product from the whatever era that
70s,
was.
80s.
I think it might have been from the 50s.
Yeah.
Marvel might have even been somewhere in that era.
They had their.
Like I said,
heyday
I
in
may
late
not
70s,
just
early
know
80s.
enough. I could be guilty of that on this one.
But I mean, in general, I mean, there are people. You put that in every so often, or and it just was the engines could tolerate it.
Oh,
even at worst, they could tolerate it.
I had people that put it in their fuel for their fuel system every once in a while. They
Right.
put it in their oil every once in a while because it's got an agents. The agents in it are good cleaners.
Yeah.
And they've got I don't know what almost an anesthetic effect. It seems like
And that was my whole thing when he said on the call Marvel Mystery Oil about a current vehicle. You guys both went, nope, don't do that now. Don't
break that habit.
Break that habit.
Told that
Exactly.
guy.
Yeah, there's more specific.
That's what I'm just trying to.
I think Russ is about to say. I think the right thing here.
There's more specific cleaners, Justice Brothers, for instance, that is designed for modern cars.
And designed for the system you're going to put it in.
Exactly. Whereas when we go back to something like Marvel, that was a thing that a lot of people used for lifter clicking and things back in an older time. And it really did have a heyday back in the 80s. The Justice Brothers products were back there as well, and they could do the same thing. But today, the Justice Brothers products are more, they keep engineering and keep driving to work with the modern cars we have now. They're more up on the times. Everybody's had to change their formulas because the EPA requires it. There's certain things that you can't use anymore and certain new things they come up with and discover that work great. So everything changes, and that's one thing that Justice Brothers do. They keep changing to keep up with the times and the cars.
Lead that's an obvious one,
Yep.
but that took a while.
Yep.
That took a while to get phased out, and they knew a long time ago.
Lead and then zinc, in the ZDDP, that was been another thing they phased out over time. And so as these products were made, I think a lot of them use they find a similar chemical that works to do some pretty good stuff.
And they don't just put it in. They go, well, why can't you just put that in the gasoline to replace what they took out? So, because every car doesn't need it. And it's less effective to the environment to a level that they allow for the certain number of cars that would actually need the ZDDP, so you're allowed to put it in. But you couldn't put it blanket across all gasolines, or you would cause an issue. And if you're still out there, and I have people email me at least now and then that say, well, I just put a quart of transmission fluid in my gasoline and keeps things lubricated. Don't do that. Don't ever put any oil-based product in your fuel tank. It does not do any good. It just burns out the back like you're burning a quart of oil. It's not good.
And it's hard on your very expensive catalyst system.
Yep. And it carbons up your engine. The byproduct of burning oil in your engine is carbon, and you don't want that. You want a clean fuel going in that engine.
866-594-4150.
I have a question, and it brings back memories, Russ, of my own truck. And for a while, I drove a 2014 Silverado that was
I remember that.
a silver one. And throughout the life of that truck, I had a couple times where I had just a run of problems with the trailer brake warning coming on the dash. And I know when you look online, there's other people that have had that. I ended up finding out that I had a couple problems going on in mine. I had a problem with my trailer that had some wires crossed in it from not unhooking the plug once, and it pulled on the junction block and had shorted something inside that I was not aware of. That was one problem. But the second problem, I never did officially know which one I solved it with. But my son is getting ready to come back, and he's going to join the family business here at some point.
14 Silverado?
He's got a 14 Sierra, and I forgot all about that. And so he dinged a good chunk of the way back to Whitewood. And then he just said they're getting ready to take his girlfriend's brother down to Alabama. They've been driving all over the place, and they're dinging again. And so I said, oh, gosh, I forgot all about that because I thought it had quit. But I remember mine also had moisture. When it would rain, it would ding. And so it was just rained out there, and they were dinging. And I'm like, okay, because you got to keep pressing OK on the steering wheel to get rid of it. It drives you crazy.
I would start by replacing the plug-in on the bumper. It unplugs from the backside. Put one in. I have that problem with my truck. It gets moisture in it when it rains or a car wash, and the backup camera keeps coming on because it gets just enough resistance to put power between the power terminal and the backup one. And so my camera keeps coming on going straight till it dries out. I open the door, put something in it, and it dries out. That is the most common thing, but that trailer brake module that's in the rear, I've had some problems with those as well.
Well, I looked on Dorman Products website this morning just to see what they sold.
Do they sell both?
The only thing I saw, and I was in a hurry, imagine that. I was just trying to browse through quick by the word brake under the keyword search, and they sell a circuit board for the switch up in the dash is what Dorman sells.
For the brake control module?
For the brake control, where the trailer brake control is at.
Then there's a problem.
That's the only thing that they had in their list that I found on a quick search.
I wonder, there could be two things going on there. There could be a problem with the switch and that circuit board that's in there, or they may have figured that there is a very slight amount of resistance in the back when it gets moisture on it. So to fix that, we've put in a different circuit board, which is programmed differently.
So that it's got a little more tolerance.
Like a flash, because there is no control, there is no flash for that from GM. So it's very possible that's what's going on. And Dorman Products, when they make a product, they make it to fix an OEM problem. So that's probably, I would say we should try that first.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Lyle. You're on the Under the Hood show. Lyle, what can we do for you?
Yes, you guys talking about the engine oil. My son's got a 2004 Grand Prix with a 3800 V6. We've always been running 5W30 conventional oil, and we tried to go to semi-synthetic 530. And within about 800 miles, his engine oil level light came on. It was 2 quarts low, and we went back to the conventional oil, and it hasn't used oil since. And the car only had 104,000 miles on at that time, but are there certain engines that just will not tolerate that type of oil?
That one.
Yeah. Yeah.
For whatever reason, that 3800 had this problem. I had this problem with my Grand Prix. I put synthetic because I said, well, I'm a mechanic. I'll put full synthetic oil in it. And the thing was burning oil. And I said, well, if it's going to, and I didn't know because it was the first experience. I just got the car. So I'm not going to spend all this money on Mobil 1. I'm going to put regular oil in it. And I did, and I said, let's keep checking it, and it stopped burning oil within the first oil change. I went, that's odd. So I put the synthetic back in it. It started burning it again. So I just ran the regular oil, and it leaked a little bit too. And then our friend Jeff Stormont, we put full synthetic in his 04 Grand Prix, and it started burning oil. So we went back to regular conventional oil in that.
And
so that's one car I wouldn't do it.
That is a thing with synthetic oil versus conventional.
It's just made up a little different, and that is an engine that didn't like it. Most engines are fine with it.
Yeah, the molecular structure of that oil just didn't want to seal on those piston rings. You sometimes wonder if it's got something to do with how the engine was broke in and, what it's become accustomed to. That sounds weird, but, whatever gets coated on the cylinders as it burnishes and it could have something to do.
Someone once told me that conventional oil, the molecules, if you will, are different sizes, so they end up filling in the spots in different ways.
They're more uniform with a synthetic.
Synthetic is all the same
and
little
it's not man-made.
size.
It's just engineered, refined a little better, engineered better. People think synthetic is 100% man-made. That is not the case.
Right.
We wouldn't need oil out of the ground if it was 100% man-made, would we?
That's true.
That's a good leaving point.
Lyle, thanks very much for the call. All right, that'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget, we're going to be in Arizona October 10th, 11th, and 12th. We'd love to see you down there. Come see us. Find us at underthehoodshow.com. Thanks for watching and listening to the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturdivant's. All right, this is the after show. Here's where we get real. We talk about real things and real things. I don't know. I don't have any.
You didn't know where you were going with that, did you?
Not at all.
Started talking?
Yep. And then there you go. And then I'm stuck.
You usually finish better than that.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a closer. I'll pitch the whole game, but if you need someone to come in for the last inning, I'm your man. You got pitchers out there throwing heat. I'm not that guy. I'm a change of pace pitcher. That's what I do.
All right, Sharon.
Let's talk to Sharon. You're on the Under the Hood show. Sharon, what can we do for you?
You guys are nuts.
We try.
I just inherited a couple of classic cars, and they both need oil changes. So do I change the oil now, or do I wait until spring and then change it?
Oh, that's a great
Change
question.
it now if you don't know when it's been changed last.
Who knows what's in there?
Yes.
How classic are they?
Well, I know what's they're Joe Gibbs racing oil in them,
Okay.
and they both got about 18 to 2,000 miles on them.
Oh, got to know, what are these cars?
Yeah, we do.
55 Bel Air and a 57 Bel Air.
All right. Well,
Those don't even qualify as classic cars.
What?
Those are, I mean, they're the cars that you think of.
They're iconic.
They're more than,
they're classics.
They're like artwork.
They are Berkeley classics. We're going to have a 2-for-1 guess at the end of this one.
Yeah. Okay.
That's going to be kind of fun. But yeah, change it right away. Do it now. And that oil that they're using, the Joe Gibbs racing oil, is a great choice. And because you need that ZDDP in there. Now, the cars have been aged well enough that you could probably get by without it. But I would definitely, they have different chemical packages they put in that for storage, for the flat tappet cams that are in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely what you want to use. I just changed oil, and I'm trying to change the oil in my stuff this year. And I just put some Driven 5. They got different numbers on there of oil, and that's what I use too. And so definitely do it now.
Okay.
And then when you get ready to put them away, take them out for a good long fun drive, and feel good about the car. Let everybody smile at you. Figure out where it's going to get stored at after it's nice and warm. Skinny it into position, and shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure you've put some seafoam, Sta-Bil or fuel stabilizer of some sort in there. And before
fill it with gas, right?
Get the tank full so you don't get moisture built up in
It's
there.
a metal tank. You don't want it to rust. You want it full.
Yep, and then shut it off and put a battery tender on it, or that's what I like to do, is just one of the electronic battery tenders, and keep that on there all winter long, and you should be good to go.
In that age of car, can she take the batteries out and put them on the shelf in the basement or something?
Yeah, you could.
I mean, you
Sure.
could. Okay.
You wouldn't even need a tender on it.
Right.
I'm not that
short
ambitious. I just like to plug
Yeah,
them in.
fair enough. Yeah, for sure.
But do not start the car over the winter unless you're going to drive it for at least an hour.
Right.
While you're running it, do not start it and shut it off. A lot of people like to start them up every month or a few weeks or whatever. Don't do that. It's very hard on the spark plugs, on the cylinders, on the exhaust system. You will get moisture in there. So like you said, drive it, get it good and hot, like an hour drive. Park it, shut it off. Do not crank that car again until you are going to take it out and drive it for an hour in the spring. You'd be much happier with it. I'm just putting spark plugs in a van right now because they said, well, you just put spark plugs in it 6,000 miles ago. You're right, but it's sat over 2 winters now, and you've moved it, every couple weeks, started it up, turn it off, started up, and they're all fouled because of that. You've got to run it and get her hot.
All right, 55 Bel Air, 57 Bel Air. We have to guess the color. Which one do you want to do first?
I think we could do them both at the same time.
Okay.
It's like a 2-leg parlay.
Okay.
I'm going to say that, and we don't have to know. Okay, I'm making my own rules here. Guess 2 colors. We don't have to know which car is the color.
Okay.
Yep. Let's just keep this fun.
All right.
So my guesses are red and white.
My guesses are blue and aqua blue, like that, or that turquoise.
Blue and aqua blue.
Yeah. With a white, in my mind, that's a white two-tone in the 57.
I think one is a tan color and the other one's black.
Okay, Sharon, what color are they?
The 55 is coral and gray, and the 57 is blue and white.
Okay, I think I win.
Coral's tan.
I think I win.
Yeah, I think
coral is coral.
Coral's tan.
Coral is pink.
What? Oh, Oh, pink.
Yeah, coral's pinkish.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what beach you're on, right? My beach was dirty.
They're losing the color. They're losing the color all the time. The coral is.
Galveston is all brown.
Yeah, the Gulf, it was all filled with oil.
It was all brown.
We're all just brown, dead coral. That's what you had.
There you go. So,
that's funny.
Sharon, thanks very much for the call. That's
no problem.
That is, I mean, that's 55 and 57 Belair they're the ones that you see in cartoons, and I mean, they're it.
Yeah, I grew up with those, so they're pretty monumental to our family.
It's the blue on the one that I'm picturing on the 55 on that big
on the picture you see every time you come to the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, there we go, guys. Anything else going on?
Plenty going on. That's always. But we're so glad you're here and keep helping us grow the audience if you can.
Yeah, thanks for commenting and asking your questions on YouTube.
Yeah. Did you get a few after we talked about it last time?
Yeah, we did, but I put something in the title. We're not going to say the word now, and we mentioned it in the show. Had to do with your friend that had the incident at Morrison, so we're not going to talk about it. But by putting it in the title and the description and us talking about it, it cut our views down to a third of what we normally have because they use that word, the T word, which
it's like clickbait for
was
some.
the problem. Yeah, so they're like, oh, everybody wants to use that and bring views to their channel, and even though it was an actuality of what happened, certain things you can't say. So I pulled it out. I pulled all that reference out and the audio out, and you know what? It started climbing back up again. So we just won't put that in there.
There you go.
It's crazy how you have to learn what to put in and what not to put in your show, even when it's actual fact. It's just one of those things you do. It's these days, but you gotta. It's a big search engine.
And one other thing, if you're watching the YouTube channel now, it is interesting. The number of people who like or subscribe or comment is like a 0.5% of the total number that watch.
Goodness, yes.
But also, if you are doing that, if you would set your subscribe and your alerts, you'll get alerts when we go live down in Arizona.
That's true. Even if you set them and then you turn them back off, since we don't have that exact time on that Friday that we're going, and we'll be live at other times, you may want to see if something really cool and exciting is coming up. You might totally miss it. So if you're subscribed and you like it, and if you were subscribed and you liked our YouTube channel in the past, let's say in the past 3 months, you would have gotten one notification every Thursday when we're live. And I did 2 other smaller little videos that were just a couple minutes that you would have got a notification for. And that's it. So you wouldn't have got overwhelmed with, because I've turned some of mine off. I've got one from a couple of space channels and stuff. And it's like every couple hours I'm getting something. Hey, they just put a new video up. I'm like, I don't want to see this notification all the time.
I was talking to my brothers recently. I had a couple of my brothers come down for a weekend just to hang out. And we were discussing betting someone, if they could do, like goading someone into doing something and betting that they could or couldn't. And my brother said, I'm too old for that now. I don't do it. If someone asks me if I can do something and I say yes and they don't believe me, I don't care.
It's like, oh, well, I know I can do it, right?
And I had the thought that when we're in Arizona, I might be able to trick you into trying something. Like
buying a car?
No. Like, I bet there was a time, Shannon, when you could jump that fence without even touching it. And I could imagine it would get into your head enough that you would try to go jump the fence. Or whatever.
You're going back to our last trip to Vegas, aren't you?
A little bit. I just imagine that is. I'm not going to do it because
I'm older than that now.
Are you?
No, you're not. No. Mm-mm.
A little.
No.
A little.
Don't break anything until after the show. Okay.
I will say this. I think that now you would take into account the possible injury and how much that would
definitely,
and you still might try it. But 20 years ago, you would have just tried it and know that, yeah, you might get hurt, but you'll be fine. Now you would know it could slow you down for a while. But that's I could definitely do that. Don't you think? Be honest. Don't you think I could trick you into doing something dumb?
No.
Okay. Oh, boy. Okay.
You don't have to, it's not a trick. You just have to tell them, just do it.
True. Yeah. Goad you. Yeah, that's the word. You don't think I could?
Say you into doing something dumb. Hey, go do that. It's dumb. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm at a point where I feel like I could, but I also am at a point, like you said, that I understand.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, I don't do jumps anymore on my snowmobile because I just
because you crashed one.
I just don't. There's certain things I know I just don't want to do.
I'll tell you this: I am having a bit of a problem with something like that. I drive every day. I drive past the new skate park in Sioux Falls.
Pretty cool. I like it.
No, this one's easy though.
You want to go hit it?
Nope.
I do.
No. I drive past that skate park, and I see people on skateboards. I see people on scooters, and they have the swimming pool style ramps, and they have the
beautiful facility we got here in town.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I look at that thing, and I go, "Huh? I don't even know what you would do in there." You know what I mean?
Are you a skateboarder?
No.
No.
I look over there and I go, "Oh, I could."
I look at that. You know what I think every time I go by? I would break my arm.
Oh yeah,
immediately.
Just being out, I would fall just
looking
walking around.
at it, I would break my arm.
I was a boarder in the '80s, man. That Longview was a boarding town. That was the time to board. I don't know if you guys did.
You get tempted to go out there then, Russ?
Oh yeah.
When you see that?
When we went over there to Lifelight, and Michelle's like, "You gonna get a board and go out there?" I'm like, "I might go out there and steal a kid's board and do it."
Yeah.
And they're like,
still
"Hey,
have the
okay."
That's awesome.
Oh, I still do it. Well, we've had a couple of them up there at the shop. You know, I got on that ripstick and was riding that in the parking lot, and they were like, "Why are you doing that? You're 40-some years old." I'm like, "Yeah, well, now I'm later than that, and I get on that thing and ride." I mean, Tony Hawk still does it.
Yeah.
At his age.
Tony Hawk.
He's right, but he still does it. He's my age.
There's a gap here somewhere.
He's our age, and he's still doing it. So there's a lot of people that are
It's all
doing
he's
that
done.
kind of stuff. If you could do it when you were younger and you did it, you just still do it.
That
There's
might, yeah.
a
And
lot of
that's what-
stuff.
When
you
I look
can't-
at that skate park, it doesn't
you're
even
not
make
gonna
sense to me.
You're not going to pick it up as an old person.
I
We
don't
used to
even-
build the boards out of half pipes out of plywood
right.
boards, and
But here's the thing. Where I live in Laverne, and we have a skate park, and it's an older skate park.
is it a
and
swimming pool?
no.
The old city pool?
No,
Indoor?
it's got some rails that you can ride, and it's got
how many cracks in the concrete?
It's doing okay.
Okay.
But it's got just little straight ramps, like 2 foot high, straight 45-degree ramps.
I could never ride a rail. I tried it over and over and over, and I always ended up on the ground.
Did you rack your nuts?
No, I just ended up on the ground.
Okay.
I have a bike. I have a bike that is electric assist. That bike goes 22 miles an hour if I push the button. And I look at that ramp, the ramp that is not as big as the ramps we used to jump when I was a kid, and I think I could probably really jump off that ramp. Now, I'm not going to do it. But when I see the skate park in Sioux Falls, I go, "Oh, look at that. I'd break my arm if I went in there. That thing doesn't make any sense." But when I see the just straight ramp, I think I could totally do that. I can't. I'm not going to.
It's not the going off the ramp, it's the coming down.
Landing especially in the big heavy electric bike, that thing would be jarring.
My
feet
with
would
my
come
knees
off.
at my age, I'm perfectly fine with a half pipe, in the air, turn around. I had no problem with that. You come down nice and gentle. That's the way to do it. But off the ramp onto the ground again, no. That's
I've watched too
always
many
been hard.
videos we all have on Name the Show of people trying to do a rail and the rail ends up between their legs.
Mm-hmm.
And that just terrifies me.
Well, I would always just go off a stair onto a rail, and one foot was just always heavier than the other, and right down I would go, just boom and crash. And we didn't wear helmets or.
We've had this discussion with like my group of friends that I grew up with and neighborhood kids. If YouTube had been around when we were kids, how many of our group of friends would be dead? We know 2, right?
There
Tommy
were
Ventura.
VCR tapes.
If we would have had YouTube and we would have had phones to record, he definitely would have tried stuff that would have ended his life. He did it anyway just because he was.
I got a feeling that none of us would be here.
You think so? I think yeah. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier. What were we talking about? If it was existed when we were kids, we would be in trouble. Oh, social media and texting and phones and all that. If we had had that when I was in grade school or high school, I would definitely have.
It always
gotten in more
exists,
trouble.
Chris.
Is that you?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's some friends, but
Oh yeah, there
it
you go.
exists. So VCR tapes, don't think that just because it was 40 years ago,
Oh, no,
it
no,
doesn't
right,
exist.
Right. No, absolutely.
It was out there. People had the camcorder that was bigger than their head.
But it was not instantaneous, though.
You had to go get it.
Oh, we had to go get it.
Right. Now
It
you could
shows
be
up
out.
40 years later.
You could
on
be out
YouTube.
and go, hey, you think I can jump?
Hey, watch my buddy on live here. He's going to try jumping these
do
three
you,
cars.
Do you think I could make the water from there? Yeah, sure. Try it. Here, I'm going to record it.
Well, isn't that the whole premise of why you told us this? You'd watch how they started doing backflips. And if they didn't see somebody else do a backflip, they would have never tried a backflip.
Yeah, that said that YouTube has advanced that so much just because someone did a flip and they went, wow, that's what could I do too? And they're like, no. But then once somebody did, they're like, oh, you can do two. Let's do two.
And they didn't realize, you're right, they didn't realize they couldn't do it, so they would try it. And then later on, those same people who just tried it and made it and lived, thankfully, saw the real thing of how they did it, how they had a big, giant bin full of styrofoam, and they jumped off it and they would crash over and over and over until they could do it. But some of these people were really good and just tried it, may have crashed a little and didn't get hurt too bad, and said, I'm going to do it again. And they did it. Like, the reason they did it is because they didn't know they couldn't.
Yeah.
Or they watched Fast and the Furious and said, I can do that.
Yeah.
And they drifting. Oh, we can do that. That's all CGI. What? What do you mean? I'm just doing it. Well, okay, more power to you. But yeah, people get hurt doing that. You know, it's oof.
Yeah, I think it would definitely have been bad. I think.
We were talking before the show that if we had social media in the 80s, we would have been in trouble with the stuff we did. We would have put GoPros in our car and posted it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So hey, we see them doing it now. We get why they're doing it. We're still the old man. Get off my lawn! But hey, that's loud. You shouldn't be doing that. But we go, yeah, I wish we had that.
It is funny though, because I can remember being in a situation where somebody said, hey, maybe don't record that. That doesn't seem to be anything anyone says anymore.
No.
People post it and go, hey, here's a picture of me. Here's a video of me going 140 miles an hour. Well, that's
dumb.
That's dumb. I mean, it's dumb to do it and also to post that. But there you go. All right. We'll see what
this all started because we want you to watch us on YouTube.
yeah. Didn't know you couldn't.
They want to see Chris jump a four-wheeler and do a backflip.
Yep, I could do it. No. I could no, that would be.
I'm amazed by many things that people do on automotive motorized stuff. And you always get more in tune with what you do yourself just on a regular basis. But when I watch people at the X Games doing what they do on snowmobiles with the flips and everything, that just is crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I ride those machines and I just can't imagine throwing that thing through the air like that.
You got to commit.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like riding the wet bike.
Yep.
Your father-in-law got on it and
Went.
committed. He was 60-some years old, and he says, I'm going to commit, and I'm going to do it.
And he did
Everybody
it.
else that got on it got scared halfway through the go, and it's like doing a backflip every time you take off, and you're like, oh, and down they went. But Roger hopped on it, and he's like, I can do it. He was just nuts. He still is.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for the after show, I think, huh?
Yep.
We covered a lot.
We did.
Yeah.
All right. Be safe, everyone. Don't do dumb things. And if you do, record them just for the insurance.
Name it after me, right?
Yep.